Raise the Banner, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. It is all there. And so joining us to really get a preview of what things are going to look like. And I got to say, a side note, I am very excited to starting a new opportunity as well for me personally, being a part of the Roundtable Sports. So joining us, Michael D'Arcia, KC Sports Report. Well, this is it, man. This is what we've been asking for now for months. And so, the Kansas City Chiefs at the end of the day, back-to-back Super Bowl champions, three-peat is obviously on their mind. I mean, this is going to be a heck of a wild night come Thursday night, right?
Oh, yeah, and I'll actually be there tomorrow. I work for the Kansas City Chiefs, so I am going to be there for the banner drop. We did this exact same thing just last year, but since you won another one to go back-to-back, I only expect it to get bigger and bigger. And, like you said, the Chiefs are on a quest to three-peat, and you can't do that unless you start off the season strong. And tomorrow night, the opposing team in the way is the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be a great game. I mean, an AFC Championship game rematch, the banner's dropping. Everybody in the NFL world is going to be watching that game very closely because of the teams that are playing in it. And so I think that this is just a great way to start off the season.
It is interesting, though, because at the end of the day, I mean, I've loved with what, Andy Reid has put together since he first arrived there in Kansas City, building a winning culture, whether that was Alex Smith or it was Patrick Mahomes as your quarterbacks. Either way, this team was making the playoffs. This team was making some noise deeper into the playoffs and then eventually winning at least 3 Super Bowls with this organization. I mean, at the end of the day, when you start to look at it as far as coaches, now we talk about Bill Belichick all the time, but when you, in your perspective, when you look at Andy Reid, because I've seen the trails he's left in Philadelphia and what he's leaving here in Kansas City, I mean, what makes this journey road so special at the end of the day from going from a very hard yet winning expectation culture in Philadelphia and to what he's brought here in Kansas City?
I think the thing that's worth noting is that Andy Reid's having all of this success, but back in 2019, when Patrick Mahomes was kind of breaking onto the scene and the Chiefs were really pushing for a title, the narrative around Andy Reid was that he couldn't win the big game. He went from he could not win a big game to having 3 Super Bowl championships in the blink of an eye. So, you really like to see that because Andy Reid is one of the guys that, everybody around the NFL loves because he's just a player's coach and he's very easy to root for. But people forget that the narrative around him a couple years ago was that he could not win the big game. And it's so interesting to see how quickly things can change. And you mentioned his Philly roots. I think it means so much more that he's finally having that success because he went 20 years coaching without having any, Super Bowl championship under his belt. He made it there, but he always, that always eluded him. And so now he, has 3 of them under his belt. He worked so hard and, it's like 20 years of coaching culminating into, being in the right place at the right time with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. And the two are quite literally the dynamic duo. Together, they are just something that I don't think we've ever seen in NFL history before.
Yeah, no, and that's where I think initially, and yeah, the three-peat is in fact the objective that's on the back of their minds. That I think, honestly, if this were to happen, I think you kind of have to make that case as far as being the most successful head coach, at least in this era, compared to what we've seen in the 20-year reigning dynasty that, the New England Patriots have been carrying on for so long with 6 Super Bowls up on their belt. I think you got to make a case as far as making a legacy of its own to winning 4 of those potentially, and for the fastest to even do it, at least in this century.
Well, I think that, if we're talking about the greatest coaches ever, Bill Belichick is great. I'm not trying to argue that he is probably the greatest coach in NFL history. But if you look at what Andy Reid has done in multiple systems, Bill Belichick could not do that. Before Tom Brady, he wasn't a bad coach, but he wasn't the Bill Belichick that we know right now. And so I think that what Andy Reid has been able to do with multiple quarterbacks, and he had Alex Smith in this team in the playoffs every year. So if you can take that body of work and put it with Patrick Mahomes, I mean, we're talking about who is a great coach. And Andy Reid has done it so long with multiple franchises in so many different pieces. Once Tom Brady left New England, the Patriots weren't good. And part of that was everybody was getting older, and Bill Belichick kind of packed it in at that point. But I really think there's an argument to be made that Andy Reid has coached better for longer, and he's going to continue to coach at a high level as long as he has Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and then initially, when you're lucky enough to have at least a quarterback with that much success, and at the same time, I mean, getting into this whole thing, Patrick Mahomes, he has had a series of facing against adversities. The fact that he didn't have the greatest wide receiving core, but that didn't stop him from making everything work, and then not to mention having a capable duo in Travis Kelce. I mean, yeah, people will go back and say, well, Tyreek Hill was the special type of player that Patrick Mahomes loves throwing deep downfield to. Yeah, you win one Super Bowl, but then past that, you win two more without him. So, when you explain the DNA of Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he is just in a class of his own. There's nobody else, at least to the stature of his talent and his mentality, that could honestly stand above him.
He's a winner. At the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is a winner. And I know a lot of people will try to make the talent comparison with Aaron Rodgers. The big difference between Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers is Patrick Mahomes shows up in big games and he wins those big games. Aaron Rodgers kind of, falters in the big moment. And I think that, what we see out of Mahomes on a yearly basis in the playoffs is Jordan-esque. Like that Chiefs team last year, I've covered many Chiefs teams. That Chiefs team last year was not that good. The defense was great, but that offense was really bad. They left a lot to be desired in terms of the wide receiver core. They led the NFL in drop passes. And what I was thinking last year is that, okay, this is a down year for the Chiefs. They can kind of regroup a little bit. They're still going to make the playoffs, but they just might not have what it takes to win the Super Bowl. And that's okay. But they still found a way to run the table and get there and beat San Francisco, a team that on paper they should not have beat. And so it really just shows you that as long as you have 15, he's the X factor. The rest of the stuff will just fall into place. As long as you have the best player on the planet, it'll be okay. And so I think that just speaks to the level of talent that Patrick Mahomes has to elevate the guys around him. Because, I mean, they should not have won last year. I will say that firsthand. They should not have made it to the Super Bowl, and they definitely shouldn't have won it. But Patrick Mahomes somehow, some way, led a team full of, I want to say scrubs offensively outside of Travis Kelce and Pacheco to winning a championship, which is remarkable.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, with the adversity and all the rest of it, and just working with what the cards are dealt with, I think is more than impressive. So here we go. This is where the season starts. And initially, you've been through this before, I'm sure, with covering the team as close as you have. Targets are all on the Chiefs' back, and everybody wants to be better than what the Chiefs are. You saw the Texans loading up. You see the Ravens you're coming into at least tomorrow night, where they only ran the ball 6 times and then were abysmal after that. And there's so much of the story narratives that, because I think everybody is saying they want to copy the identity that the Chiefs have. But I think into your case, in your defense, this is not something that is very easy to replicate, is it?
No. I mean, the thing that you have to get is the best quarterback on the planet, and not just, the best quarterback in the game, maybe a generational talent at the position. Somebody who has all the intangibles, the talent. Like Lamar Jackson's got a lot of talent, but we've seen in the playoffs, he doesn't have the most important intangible, and that's just being a winner. Like Lamar Jackson in the playoffs has not been a good quarterback. He has not shown up when his team needed him the most. And Patrick Mahomes has done the complete opposite. He shows up in the big moments. And so while all these other teams are trying to gear up to beat the Chiefs, you don't have the coaching staff that the Chiefs do, and you don't have Patrick Mahomes. And so while you can try to put as much talent on your roster to field a team to beat the Chiefs, they haven't really been beaten that many times in the last 5 years. Joe Burrow did it, and Tom Brady did it in the Super Bowl. That was it. Mahomes' floor has been an overtime loss in an AFC championship game. That is what we've seen with 15 as quarterback. So that's the bar, and he has just surpassed it so many times. So to replicate what the Chiefs have, I mean, you can't really do it. I think the only way to beat the Chiefs is by trying to come up with something new and coming up with your own style of football. Because if you try to play the Chiefs style of football, you can't. You cannot play it better than the team that has done it at the highest level over the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, it's nearly impossible to replicate a success that, the Chiefs have been able to, build upon with a strong culture and with the strong-minded guys. I mean, yeah, you think about some of them that go through personal stuff, but yet at the same time, they come in, they work, and they do whatever they can to basically contribute to the successes that the Chiefs have built for years. So one last thing before we really get into this is so the competitions now have started to heat up, and this is kind of something you expect in the AFC. I mean, the fact that, Josh Allen and the Bills, he's without his receivers, but you can't count Josh Allen out as far as trying to work with what he has at this moment and still inch his way into the playoffs. In the AFC West, in this particular situation, and me living in Denver, I'm hearing all the hype about Bo Nix and with Sean Payton finding his guy. I don't throw my fandom out there, but as a Charger fan, I love the culture that Jim Harbaugh is putting together. So now you bring in a tougher-minded coach now to really square up against Andy Reid and that Chiefs kingdom. And then there's the Antonio Pierce effect, where he's got the attitude, the Raider mentality in the defense last year, giving up only 17 points per opponent is something impressive. How do you outlook this division? Because I think at the end of the day, this certainly is no cakewalk, but it's also something that the Chiefs is like, look, you can load it all you want. Well, we're still going to be the team that you're not going to trounce against, like in this division.
Yeah, the Chiefs are going to be the team to beat in the division and really in the AFC entirely. But, like you said, the AFC West has gotten a lot better. They've made moves to gear up to be the Chiefs. Now, my only rebuttal is that those moves might look great on paper, but until they translate to actual wins, it all looks nice, but it actually doesn't do anything. Because, how many times have I heard that Sean Payton is this great coach that can lead his team through anything? And we have really not had a lot of trouble against the Broncos as of late. I know we lost last year, but up until that point, we hadn't lost to them since like 2015. So we haven't really had a ton of, struggle in the division, but they have gotten a lot better. You mentioned Harbaugh. The Chargers are going to be a lot better than they were last year. Injuries really got the best of them. I think the Broncos have something cooking with Bo Nix, and, maybe he is able to lead that team to, 9-10 wins. And the Raiders are kind of a basket case. I'm not really sure what to expect from them. I think they've got an interesting coach who's vocal, but, that might not lead to many wins, at the end of the day. So I still think it's the Chiefs division to lose, and I still think they are the team to beat. And listen, they're going to have to go through us. And I think that the Chiefs are very well aware of that fact. And I don't think they were very happy with losing a couple divisional games last year. And so I expect them to bounce back and really try to, go 5-1 or maybe even 6-0 if they can.
Now the opponent that apparently has some unfinished business to attend to from here. So of course, tonight I have my prime predictions. Then of course I have my new intro into Jake's Inferno 5. So in the betting purposes, I love betting for at least the state of how the game is going to play out. So the Ravens, the last time these two squared off, we all knew the story. The Ravens felt like that they were the tougher team walking in. They ran the ball efficiently well, but after 6 carries, they didn't run the ball again. And it felt a lot like Lamar Jackson got very marginalized. In this game in particular, my only case of this, and this is my opinion on it, is I think in a game like it, last year we had Detroit who came in and beat the Chiefs up at home in the same similar scenario. But I feel like the Ravens, they have this game circled. And at this point, they're trying to prove that whole offense felt like it was a fluke, the way that the fluidity and how they managed that. How do you really preview this matchup as a whole?
It's interesting because I think that there is a chance that the Ravens try to correct last year's mistakes by running the ball a lot more. I mean, they ran it 6 times in that AFC Championship game, and that's not good enough to beat Kansas City. And they just went out and they signed Derrick Henry, who, by the end of his career is probably a Hall of Fame running back. So I think that they are definitely, gearing up to beat the Chiefs, and they're going to come into this game motivated. Listen, this is an AFC Championship game rematch. These two teams always play each other very tightly. The Chiefs have had a lot of success against Baltimore. Mahomes started off his career against Lamar going 3-0. Lamar got one, but, the Chiefs have had a lot of playoff success against the Ravens. So I do think that the Ravens are going to be coming into Arrowhead motivated, but, it's week 1. Teams are still going to have to figure out, their identity and how they're going to play. We might see a lot more missed tackles because it is the first week of the season. So it might be in the Ravens' best interest to run the ball, but I really think that's the only way that the Ravens have a chance to win. Derrick Henry's going to have 15 to 20 carries and get at least $120 to $150 if they want to win this game. If it's a pure pass off, Mahomes is not going to lose to Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson cannot beat Mahomes with his arm. With his legs, that's a different story. But I think that Baltimore's game plan coming into this game should be to run the football and really just milk the clock and go on longer offensive drives to keep Mahomes off the field.
And with all of that, because I like I said, I'm going to be tuning into that tomorrow night because I just feel like number one, NFL's back, man. Like we've been waiting for months for this. So to watch a gridiron matchup, and this is why NFL is so king with their viewership because they put together the schedules. This is part of the reason why I always felt like the NCAA needs a CEO in the building because they need to make the schedules much more consistent, much more structured, and then it will make sense for a lot of these conferences. So to really cap this off, I have asked every single one of them that have been close with the teams after breaking down the offseason, the draft, and then breaking down the preseason, and then we're going into now week 1. With everything that has been addressed for the Chiefs and how you have closely looked at this team, what is your record prediction going into this year and what we should expect for Kansas City? Because that three-peat is not going to come as easy as I'm sure a lot of people might think it could.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a grind. Last year, the Chiefs went 11-6, and that was the worst Mahomes has done in his entire career. I think the Chiefs take a step forward this year in the regular season. I don't think they're going to mess around as much. Mess around like they were messing around last year. I think they're going to have it together earlier on in the year. I initially picked the Chiefs going 14-3. I know that's a lofty goal, but I think that Kansas City is really going to be there both offensively and defensively to start the year. And I will say that I think the floor for this team is 12-5. I really think that this team is going to be a lot better, not only on paper, but just overall than they were last season.
All right. Well, there you go. You've heard it from the one and only closest with the team to seeing exactly how this season pans out and what tomorrow night is going to look like. I'm excited for it, man. And at the end of the day, enjoy yourself. You have a cold one up on me, man, and just enjoying, some great Kansas City Chief football as usual. Michael, appreciate you, man. Where can people find you getting everything they need to know about the Kansas City Chiefs' historical potential run?
You guys can find me on YouTube at KC Sports Report. It's right there. And then Instagram, KC_Sports Report, and Twitter at KC Sports Report. Jake, I appreciate you for letting me on. It should be a really fun season. I hope to be back here because the Chiefs are probably going to go on a historical run, as you said.
I'm telling you, man, like I said, I've got all my connections with everybody. And listen, I'm getting all this in this week because by next week, I am on a boat. I'm enjoying myself going into an undisclosed location with my wife and I on our honeymoon cruise. So I'm excited about that. But at the end of the day, if I get a real good week 1, man, those specialty drinks are going to be tasting just immaculate, man. So
there you go. Well, congrats. Have a good one.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, Chase,